All right, welcome back to Get Out the House, Go Fish. Today, I'll be driving down to St. Augustine, Florida to attend a surf fishing seminar at the Fishbites Trading Post with speaker guest Noel Kuhn. Now, this seminar is just the tip of what you would learn with Mr. Kuhn for the day if you had him as a guide. Now, here's his webpage, thesurfangler.com, and if you go there, you can get more info about a half day or a whole day guide with him. And just after watching this part of the seminar, because I'm going to be splitting this seminar up, it ran a little over like an hour and 40 minutes. So this is the first part of it, and you're going to see, how much you'll learn from him. So I definitely recommend checking out his website. And I would also like to thank at this time the Fishbites Trading Post for putting on this event. They have at least one of these events every month. Go to their Facebook page, like the page, and so you'll be notified of the next event. And be sure you attend, because usually at the end they always have a raffle, so you have a chance to win some prizes too. And then afterwards, if you're kind of hot, and you can go inside. They have a 4,000 square foot facility. You can go inside, shop around, check out their. They have a full service tackle store, carry a wide variety of custom rods, reels, and as well as name brand tackle. So anyway, like I said, once again, this seminar, it was about an hour and 40 minutes long, so I'm splitting it up into different parts. So enjoy this first part.
Well, first of all, thank Fishbites for allowing me to share with you my passion and my hobby. There are no silly questions today. Y'all are here to learn. I'm here to teach what I love to do. I kind of do things backwards. Since I've got 45 years of walking this beach, I want to try to cram it down into an hour and a half. So there are no silly questions, and I kind of do things backwards. I'm not going to preach to you. I'm not the professor. I'm not just going to talk. I want to answer your questions. So I like to start things kind of backwards with a few questions, so I make sure I answer everybody's during our time together. So by raise of hands, I need a few questions, a half a dozen, and we'll get started. Anybody with any? Yes, sir, in the back.
When I'm on the beach and I'm reading the breaks, looking for the cuts and stuff, is there a difference in what I'm looking at on the different tides? Inbound going to look different than outbound versus slack. What do I look for differently in those?
There's 30 minutes right there. Absolutely. That is key. All right?
What's the best tide?
Kind of falls right in along with him and his question. Yes, sir, in the back.
What's more important, tide or tide? Sunset or
All
tide?
three of those are going to blend right together. Great question. Yes, sir.
How do you fish when there's a bar just 20 yards in front of you?
Okay. That's location of the bait. Where we're going to cast the bait in regards to that bar. No silly questions. Yes, sir.
How do you get the most out of one of those long poles for a good
There
cast?
you go. Now, I wish we had more water back here, but I'm just going to have to show you how. Instead of showing you a cast that's 400 feet, 500 feet, I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you the technique, the tempo, and the timing. How to cast farther and exerting less energy by loading the rod properly. All right. Yes, sir.
Now, this is going to be a question I had. So you don't have to be a muscle man to throw a 14-foot rod.
Okay. There's a great rod for everybody. There's so many different surf rods, but look at me. 62 years old, 30 pounds overweight. I don't have big guns, and I can cast 600 feet. It's like a golfer. When I used to play golf, I got beat by these 70-year-old guys. Yeah, I may have been 300 yards, but I was 20 yards in the water or 20 yards in the woods, or in the sand trap. Casting is a technique, just like, who's ever tried to play golf?
I don't want to.
Okay, now scratch golfer. That's a little bit tougher right there. That means shooting par. Anybody ever played tennis? Raising hands. There you go. Any of us tennis pros? No. Well, I was lucky enough to get my lessons from a world record holder, and he got me to 600 feet. And I was like, okay, that's enough. Watching him throw 800 feet, that's amazing. Once I saw that, it's like, teach me how. So I'm going to teach you the technique, the tempo, and the timing. The only thing I can't show you is the true distance, because we have mud. The last seminar we did here, I had 3 feet of water back there, but we got mud now. Okay? Cover a lot of other subjects. Any questions burning in the back of your head? Yes, sir.
I've been seeing in the videos lately about orange floats and clams for bait with the pompano back north. What kind of clams?
Perfect. I brought live bait with us, and I'm going to show you some of that. I'll show you how to use them better. Hopefully they're still fresh from yesterday. Yeah, good. We got bait. We're going to cover fish bites, absolutely, because they have saved my butt in many a days. Working actually better than real bait. But I want to show you. I've got some whiting we can cut up. I've got live sand fleas. I've got live blue crabs. I've got live clams. So let's start with when, where, the beach, high beach, low beach, high tide, low tide, first light, in the evening. The only thing I can tell you for sure is that I love sunrise. Pompano are sight feeders. I understand some people catch them at night. I've targeted them a few times in the full moons in the beginning of the summer when they're still here. But I love a good sunrise, but it's more so dictated on tide. It really is. So here in Northeast Florida, we're blessed with all 3 kinds of beaches. We're a high impact beach, okay, where yesterday we had 5 feet of tide. On a high impact beach, 5 feet of tide may only mean the water's going to move about 50 feet. Everybody got that? Little nod? Okay. Versus Little Talbot Island. Some of it is flat as a pool table. 5 feet of tide there could be 150 yards. So, fish travel up and down our beaches. They migrate their whole life. They're either going offshore, inshore, but most of the fish we catch are going north and south based on the water temperature. I like to equate it as if we want to go to Miami, we could go 3 ways. We're going to make this the beach. That's the dry sand. We're going to make this the sandbar. Let's change colors. They've been blessed with 4 colors. This is nice. This is the sandbar. And a lot of times here in Northeast Florida, we actually have 2 sandbars, but for this, we're just going to equate it as 1. So, when the fish are traveling up and down our beaches, just like if we were going to Miami, what's the fastest way to get to Miami? What road? 95. What other road could we use to get to Miami? What? A1A. And there's a 3rd road. US 1. They all go there. Fish are the same way when they're traveling. A1A, it would take us, if we went 95 south, we could be there in 5.5 hours. Went down US 1, about 9 hours. Go down to A1A, about 2 days. We'd end up in Miami. Fish are the same way. Dry sand. Okay, this is our trough. This is our sandbar. A1A is right here. When you walk out into the water, just got generic beach, you walk out in the water and you feel that first little drop, that's A1A. I can't tell you how many huge fish I've caught right there at my feet. And in the beginning, when I was learning how many fish I was throwing way past, I just had the idea the farther you cast, the bigger fish you could catch. No. Have I seen a 10-foot hammerhead at Volano swimming right there in 3 feet of water? Yes. So those fish come right up to that first little drop off. And that's where they do a lot of their feeding. And like the question in the back about what time to fish there, you got to have enough water where the fish feel comfortable. They won't get trapped. When the tide drops out, there's going to be a certain point. They're not going to be here anymore. they're going to zip out through a run out and go over up to US 1. US 1 is right before the sandbar. Before I learned how to cast long distance, I thought it'd be a great idea to wade out to the bar and cast from there, right? Bigger fish, because the bigger fish are farther out in the ocean. I don't know about any of y'all, waded out. You got that first little drop off, and you may wade 10 yards or 20 yards to get to the bar, but right before the bar, what starts happening? I'm on my toes, I got my surf rod up here thinking, this is not a good idea. There's sharks out here. I know there's sharks out here. Please let me get up on the bar. And all of a sudden you go up on the bar and you're in knee-deep water again. I just walk through the fish. If you get up to here, if you got 5 feet of water right before the bar, you just walk through the fish. All right, so we got A1A, we got US 1, and on the outside of the sandbar at high speed, we got 95 south. The predators usually hang outside the sandbar. Once again, I see that 10-foot hammerhead right there in 3 feet of water here at Volano. Absolutely, I got a picture on my phone. But the big predators usually stay just outside the sandbar. Do 100-pound tarpon come right up here to your feet? Absolutely. 150-pound black tips come up here right by your feet? Absolutely. But that's their 3 lanes of travel. A1A, US 1, and 95. Now, depending on the tide, depending on how much water are in these areas, dictate where you should be throwing your bait. So, Crescent Beach, yesterday, you got an inner sandbar and you got an outer sandbar. When it was high tide, just to get to that first drop off, we need to call that the first drop off, and then we're going to use the black as the dry sand. There's your dry sand up at the dunes. When it was high tide, there was a 60-yard cast just to get there, that first little drop off. But all that 60 yards in between here, if your bait's landing in here, you might as well be fishing in the Walmart parking lot. What you're gonna catch, a little whiting, maybe a catfish, but they're not feeding here. They're feeding on that first lip. You may get lucky to catch a fish in here, but right here at that first drop off, that's where your bait needs to land. Now, as the tide drops out, we can walk those 60 yards, and by the time we get to low tide, we're right here. We can almost catch them with a cane pole at that first little drop off if there's enough water. Got some pretty big tides this time of year. Sometimes that trough just dries out, especially depending on what kind of beach you're at. If you're at a flat beach, like it was where I was at Crescent yesterday, there was enough water here to hold fish. But when the water started dropping out is when I started looking for that run out. And they were very easy to see yesterday. A run out is simply all the energy that comes up on the beach, all the waves, it has to turn around and go back out with the same equal value. Otherwise the water would be up and over A1A. Make sense? So when that energy comes up, let's say if you got a pretty high tide, the waves aren't even breaking here. The waves start breaking on this sandbar and they flatten out and they roll right up to your feet. All that energy has to go back out. So what happens is it creates a weak spot in the sandbar. And this is known as a run out or a cut or a rip tide. Same thing's got several names. But what's happening when that water crashes up, it comes up to the dry sand and reverses and turns and finds a weak spot and goes back out. That's your run out. Unfortunately, that's someone this summer will perish because they get caught in a run out and they struggle instead of letting them sweep them out to calm water and swimming parallel to the beach and coming back in, because you can't swim across that. Twice I have feared for my life. A good buddy of mine lost his son, a very good fisherman. Saved one of his sons and lost one of his sons because of that. So Sorry, I went to that tragedy part. But let's talk about the buffet. That's what we're interested in. The buffet is when these fish position themselves and use that run out to catch their food. Instead of foraging really hard, if they position themselves at this run out, here comes the food. The sand fleas that are in distress, the little clams, the little baby calico crabs that got caught up in the current, they're going to come sweeping right out to them. So that's a run out. Any questions so far about the run out? Yes, sir.
The best place to throw
The best place to throw with that.
with that, inside or outside?
Yes. Inside, outside, in it. So you got to find where the fish are. If you find a good run out, like I did yesterday, you're going to find some fish somewhere in this vicinity. And how do you find out where? Yes, sir.
That was my question. How do you find out where the run out is?
Trial and error. Well, the one thing you can do to help you is that we very rarely have those calm waters where we don't have what I call the rip headed south or the rip headed north. You know, when you throw your sinker out, you almost always, our ocean is almost always moving. When I go fish the Gulf, there's nothing. You throw your sinker out there, it stays almost all the time. Here, rarely do we have those days where you can fish a pyramid sinker and you throw it there and it stays there. That's why I don't have anything hardly but all Sputniks in my tackle box. But the one thing that'll help you find out where the fish are is first determine which way is our water moving. Always moving either north or south. Just standing there on the beach, give somebody a guess on how you can tell which way the water's moving. Bubbles. Watch the foam. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. He advances to the bonus round over here. All right, the bubbles. Just look at the bubbles. If there's not a real windy day, the bubbles are going to give away which way the water's moving. So, if I determine that, well, let me first show you the 5 areas I'm going to throw the bait. Just inside the sandbar, that was US 1. I'm going to throw one just on this side. I'm going to throw one on the other side of the run out just before the sandbar. Then I'm going to put one out here, getting out there to 95 south. One of those is going to produce, and I always like to drop one right there in the deep water. The scenario yesterday was so easy to see. We had this big coquina bar. This is dry sand when it started dropping out. This big coquina bar, just like that. And over here was another white sand bar. And that water was just ripping out of there. And the easy way you could see it was much darker. As the tide dropped out, really, you could see the red sand and you could see the white sand. And that water was ripping out through here. Yesterday we had a south to north. So I first tried everywhere, and sure enough, just like it's supposed to work, this spot and this spot were working the best. What happens when all these little creatures get sucked out through the run out and they hit that current, it goes this way. And you'll end up with a plume that looks something like that. It won't go out past the second bar. It'll be there in that really deep trough. But you can watch the bubbles. Well, first of all, you can see the bubbles just going north. And then out here, if you watch it long enough, when the wave crashed, which the wave doesn't crash here, you can see all the bubbles kind of going this way. But it was really easy to tell. If you throw out a sinker, get on a small whiting, the whiting would automatically start going to the north. He's not running north like a pompano would. He was not running sideways. So that's how you tell. Now, to see a run out, a little more difficult, especially at high tide. And what we're talking about runouts, I'm going to use the word structure. No different if you're fishing back here in the intercoastal. The structure may be a dock, some pilings, oyster bars, grass lines. Well, our structure is a lot harder to see because a little nuance of 1 foot deeper water can be a big difference. You've got that water gushing out through here. The easiest way to spot one of these, and I showed my customer yesterday morning, when I get to the beach, I'll stand there for maybe 10 minutes and just watch the waves, and you'll start to see something different. The easiest thing to see is that the waves break towards each other and then diminish to nothing. And the reason they diminish to nothing because the water's too deep for it to break on the bar. When we got there, I say there's probably 3 feet of water on top of the bar, and the waves are breaking perfect. They start here, and they curl, and then all of a sudden, they diminish. And we didn't have enough of side winds, so the exact same thing was on the other side. They would start breaking on the bar, and they would diminish. That 20 yards right there, wave would never break. That makes sense? That's the easiest way to see it. Harder to see early in the morning when you get there. But the easiest way to see something like that is in the afternoon. Anytime from about 1 o'clock till sunset, where you got the light illuminating the waves, is so much easier to see. If you can scout in the afternoon on a low tide, you can see this stuff like crazy. Then you can go back the next morning in the dark and you know exactly where to set up. So if you see one of these, which you can because it's on every beach, except in the dead of summer, we don't have any storms, just those afternoon thunderstorms. We don't have a lot of currents going on. Our beaches get flat as the pool table. You've got a trough. You may have a second trough, but there's not hardly any runouts at all with that dead of summer, that July and August time. When you find something like this, you want to go back the next day at daybreak and fish it. Mark it on the beach. Mark it up on the dunes or something. But don't use a stick. Don't use an old Coca-Cola can. Somebody's going to pick that up and take it away. Mm-hmm. Use a telephone pole, a palm tree, the tallest condo with a blue roof, whatever you can mark it on. And then next morning, go back at 6 a.m. in the dark. You're setting up, and you'll know exactly where to cast that bait.
You can mark it on Google Maps too on your phone.
Google Maps. I'm as low tech as it gets, but I've got Google Maps. It's funny, I got a smartphone for the weather. Because as surf fishermen, we can only move 2 ways, north and south. But that weather app will help you a lot. Okay, here comes the storm. If we pick up here and we drive down to the hammock, it's sunshiny. Up here, lightning's cracking. So use that app if you want to continue fishing. See where the storm is, how fast it's coming, and where we need to go to get away from the storm. If you don't have a lot of waves and you're able to scout in the afternoon with a high sun, you can also see a plume of silk kind of looking like a mushroom. And you can also see these at the near shore breaks. You got a high tide and you're looking down the beach, it's like, why is that dirty down there? Sometimes our sand line, especially like up at Volano, it won't just be straight. You look down the beach and you'll see these like this, especially right after a storm, like this nor'easter we just had. That's why you find the beach itself gets cut up with these dips. Well, if that dip right there, that continues underwater. So this is the dry sand, that's the edge of the water. This actually goes underwater also. And that's the first really run out. At high tide, this water is going to be doing this, and it may cut through the bar also. But when you see those points like that, those points of sand, set up on top of one of those hills and cast over to the right, cast over to the left. Because the same thing is happening. These little creatures, these little sand fleas, they're getting picked up and they're getting shot back out into the trough. I saw a great video, one of the places I like to fish at Sebastian Inlet, about 1,000 yards south of the jetties. This guy just had a little spinning rod, had a 1 ounce egg sinker, little short leader, little circle hook, and some sand fleas. He was tearing the fish up. And the farthest cast he was making was from here to the road. Right there on one of those little points. So you could see it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you could see this little plume. It was only going like from here to the road. Stand there with a spinning rod, throwing those live sand fleas right on that point right there. He was standing right here and making a 20-yard cast at the most right there.
Now, how long will the run out be there?
Until God turns up that storm again and it's gone. But if we have mild weather, it'll stay there for days. It'll shift. Okay, it'll shift a little bit. Every tide that comes in, every tide that goes out, every wave that crashes is going to change that run out, but there'll be run outs somewhere near there. I've got a run out, same run out I've been fishing for 45 years. It's always in the same place because it has to do with how close it is to an inlet. one of my mentors taught me how to catch big redfish there. I said, okay, in October, the 3rd week in October, we're going to go there. We're going to go to that run out that you know. We're going to catch your first big redfish. Half a blue crab. 20 minutes later, I've got a 30-pound redfish on. Like, okay, I know you know what you're talking about. I'm going to listen to you. That was a good day. But that run out is because of the influence of an inlet coming out where it meets the ocean. There's always a run out in that. It may move 100 yards, but it's always in that same, it's hardly ever changed. So they do change every day a little bit. The calmer the weather, the longer they'll be there. Any other questions about runouts? Okay, so with the 3 ways to find them: waves that diminish and break towards each other. It's a little harder to see if you've got a crosswind. If you've got a hard southeast or hard northeast, it's a little easier, a little harder to see that. But if you watch those waves long enough, you'll see what I'm talking about. Breaking towards.